What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So in the last month or so, I've done two of these videos looking at guys that went very late in the draft, whether it's Kirill Kaprizov went all the way at 135th, and I looked at the 79 forwards selected before him, or Connor Hellebuck, who I believe was the 120th pick, and I looked at the 11 goalies that went before him in the 2012 draft. So today we're also doing that. We're doing it with Adam Fox, who went 66th overall back in 2016. The Calgary Flames drafted him and Matthew Tkachuk at 6th overall. One of the greatest 1-2 punches in a draft ever, in my opinion, when looking at it. Although obviously Adam Fox should never even sign with the team. He would get traded in the Dougie Hamilton trade, then would eventually get traded from the Carolina Hurricanes over to the New York Rangers, kind of forced his way to the New York Rangers. So in the end, the Flames kind of got screwed on both accounts. So when looking at Adam Fox, he didn't have an amazing draft year. That's kind of why he fell. He was only 5'11", but he was pretty productive with the U.S. developmental program. Wasn't the best U.S. developmental program prospect in this draft that you're going to get to, who was taken before him, but he was a pretty solid prospect. I think he kind of did fall, probably should have been a second-round pick, but by no means in his draft year people were saying he was like a first-round pick. So it's going to be fun to look through the guys that obviously went before him, and the first guy is one of the most iconic draft busts of recent memory, being Olli Juolevi. Obviously, he went 5th overall to the Vancouver Canucks. They would completely strike out on their 2016 5th overall pick. Then in 2017, they would get Elias Pettersson at 5th overall. When looking at him, never panned out. 3 points in 41 career NHL games over in Finland now, playing in his home country. Just really disappointing. Had some injuries to deal with early on in his career, but even with that, it's just one of the biggest busts of the 2010s when looking at Juolevi. 9th overall ahead of Adam Fox, Sergachev. So when looking at this draft, you're going to see there's a couple guys. Obviously, no one's to the level of Adam Fox in this draft, besides maybe one dude. But there's some solid guys. The 2016 draft is a very good draft, and Sergachev really kicks us off. He played in the OHL in his draft year, which I didn't honestly know. He played for the Windsor Spitfires, was a very, very good defenseman for the Tampa Bay Lightning when they won both of their Stanley Cups. Last year, really emerged kind of as their fringe number one, with Victor Hedman kind of splitting that role. But this year, shattered his fibula. Probably he's going to be back next year, but that is a serious recovery. But I still think going forward, he's going to be a top 25 defenseman in the entire NHL at 9th overall. Obviously, for the Canadiens, it's unfortunate because they traded him for Jonathan Drouin, but for Tampa, very, very good overall move. Next up, Jake Bean, 13th overall, kind of has just been a bottom pairing defenseman in the NHL, has not really lived up to expectations for the Carolina Hurricanes, who selected them. So they really fumbled that pick, especially in 2016. That was one of their last. Obviously, 2018 would be their last. This was one of their last lottery picks of their kind of rebuild, and they kind of squandered it. Next up, that top U.S. developmental program prospect obviously was Charlie McAvoy, who went 14th overall. He had about the same points per game numbers as Adam Fox in the USHL, but he was viewed as a far more complete defensive prospect, as well as being 6'1" instead of 5'11". Fun fact, Adam Fox, Charlie McAvoy, both Long Island kids, goddamn mecca of hockey, as well as Shane Pinto. So when looking at Charlie McAvoy, the only guy that I'm definitely taking Adam Fox over Charlie McAvoy, but Charlie McAvoy basically since this 2021 season has been a top 7 defenseman in the entire NHL. A couple seasons where you can argue that he's been legitimately top 3. This year, another solid 46 points in 71 games while being great defensively. Doesn't have the offensive ceiling of an Adam Fox, but still a fantastic player. Really good for the Boston Bruins, especially considering they flubbed 2015, the 13th, 14th, 15th overall. No, 12th, 13th, and 14th. They absolutely screwed that up. So the fact that they bounced back in 2014, they obviously got pasta. 2016, everybody talks about 2015, but in 2014 and 2016, they got absolute steals. Next up, this is the 5th guy, I believe, Jacob Chychrun, another guy that, again, no Adam Fox, but this is a very, very good pick for Arizona at 16th overall. Was a top pairing guy in Arizona. They got a decent haul for him. It eventually ended up being the 12th overall pick and Ottawa's 2nd round pick this year. That's probably going to be like 38th to 40th overall. So definitely a good deal for Arizona. And Chychrun has developed into I'd say around the top 50 defenseman in the entire NHL. Maybe doesn't have that high offensive ceiling or even be that good defensively, but he's definitely solidified himself as a good top pairing guy. Well worth the 16th overall pick. Next up, Dante Fabro. And looking at Dante Fabro, 17th overall, he's been solid in Nashville. He's been a solid top 4 guy for them, but at what, 17th overall, not quite what you expect. I almost said Boston College. Obviously, British Columbian prospect, played at Boston University. when looking at him, a little bit disappointing. Logan Stanley, another guy, 6'7", definitely did not have that impressive numbers in his draft year. 17 points in 64 games, but they bet on the fact that he was 6'7", and honestly, he's still getting time in the NHL just because he's 6'7". So in looking at him, this was definitely a project that they took on as the Winnipeg Jets. Never really panned out. Never really panned out for the Jets, and that kind of stinks for them if they hit on this pick and even got some guys that went later in this draft. Obviously, not even talking about Adam Fox. They really could have had their defense core solidified. It's still a solid defense core, but Logan Stanley here really hurts. Dennis Cholowski, Detroit Red Wings, 20th overall, most recently. Obviously, a Bridgeport Islander. I'm pretty familiar with him. He had a decent season last year with Bridgeport, but nothing beyond a top pairing AHL guy. Maybe can see some NHL action. Maybe can be a bottom pair if someone gets hurt on your team. But in the first round, very disappointing for the Detroit Red Wings. Lucas Johansson, not a ton of NHL burn, 9 career NHL games, 12 points in 22 AHL games this season. You can't call him a bust because he's at 28th overall, but definitely a disappointment for the Washington Capitals. Andrew Peeke, 34th overall. He's been okay. Actually, no, not that good this season. Obviously got traded to the Boston Bruins. I was confused when the Bruins picked him up this season, considering he's still getting paid like $3 million. But yeah, never really blossomed into anything beyond a bottom pair guy. We got Libor Hajek, the Rangers legend. This guy is hated by Ranger fans. He played a decent role in 2021 and 2020, not really 2022, but this guy is one of the worst defensemen that I've personally ever seen. And as a result, the Rangers just eventually had to cut ties with him, not give him any more NHL time. Chad Chris, 45th overall to the Chicago Blackhawks. Never played a single NHL game and looks like he might honestly be out of hockey at this point. That's disappointing, even for a second round pick. Sam Girard, 47th. This is kind of a steal. Obviously, no Adam Fox, but he's been a very good key piece to the Colorado Avalanche. This year, a bit of a down year, but he did enter player assistance program at one point. I think he can easily rebound and get back to being a 35-ish point second pair guy. And again, a smaller guy, but an effective NHL defenseman nonetheless still. Ryan Lindgren went ahead of Adam Fox in this draft to the Boston Bruins, 49th overall. His play has kind of fallen off recently. Rangers fans are starting to kind of turn on him a little bit. But considering, again, 49th overall from 2021 to 2023, one of the best defensive defensemen in the entire NHL. Still an okay player, but it's going to be interesting to see what the Rangers do with him this summer, considering he needs a contract, if they're going to give him a long-term deal and how much. Definitely interesting. Kale, I'm going to botch that last name. I'm not even going to say it. LA Kings pick. He's still kicking around in the AHL and NHL this season for the Buffalo Sabres. But obviously, no Adam Fox, disappointing pick. This one's interesting, the next one up. Philip Hronek went 53rd overall. So they absolutely blew the Cholowski pick in the first round, but they got a very, very good defenseman at 53rd overall. Again, a lot of good defensemen in this draft. Once he debuted for the Detroit Red Wings, he was basically a top pairing guy ever since. This year in Vancouver was looking like, not Norris caliber, but he was looking like a top 15 defenseman the first half of the season. He has cooled down. He had like 36 points in his first 42 games. Has cooled down a bit, but going forward, going to be a very, very good top pairing defenseman, exactly what the Vancouver Canucks needed. Marcus Niemelin, Edmonton Oilers. Played a solid 43. Oh, he played last year for the Edmonton Oilers. I honestly forgot about this dude. Right now playing for their AHL team, but even for an early third-round pick, you kind of maybe expect more. And then lastly, back to Adam Fox, 66th overall. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Are you surprised that Adam Fox fell this much? That was a pretty decent draft. You look at it, you got guys like Sergachev, Hronek, McAvoy, Chikrin. It's decent. It's definitely a solid draft, but Adam Fox clearly was the best defenseman from this draft, either the second or third best player in this draft. Austin Matthews, obviously number one, him and Matthew Tkachuk. I would probably take Adam Fox right now, but Matthew Tkachuk was more of an impact player. So yeah, very interesting to see the classic Olli Juolevi at first overall. And let me know in the comments which other players you want me to do this with when looking at guys that went either late first round. If they're a forward, I'm thinking maybe David Pastrnak. He went 25th overall. Look at the 2014 draft, who went ahead of him. Or guys in the goddamn second, third, fourth. I did Kirill Kaprizov. He was in the 5th round. That was an insane video. I don't know if I'm going to be doing 79 guys again. But yeah, let me know in the comments. What do you think about this absolute steal for the Calgary Flames that they never really got to see live to full fruition? And I'll be seeing ya in the next one.